It has been 10 years since I wrote Kaleidoscopic Reflections, and the book is about five generations of a Tamil family and how their destiny is linked to the fate of India. As caste continues to be one of the most polarizing issues in our country, and since caste is one of the primary themes of this book, I thought I must revisit it from that angle. Um, so this book is narrated by Kadambari, who is an intercaste young woman, and she starts off thinking that she is a post-caste sort of person or an anti-caste person because she is intercaste. She thinks she is beyond it, beyond the prejudices. But as she goes along, she realizes that caste is a very real thing that in her world, and then that it continues to haunt her. And when she looks for her histories, her diverse histories within her family of these different castes, that's when she realizes that how much of the past really defines our present and how we are still battling the battles of the past and how we are all, prisoners of the past, really. So she finds that not only herself, but people around her, including her grandmother or her aunts and her family, carry these intergenerational traumas with them and how they pass it on to the next generation. And then she also sees how everybody has always sort of aspired to live the life that their ancestors hoped that they would have. So these are all things that she imbibes and, she digs up her past. And this book, the way I drew a lot from my own experiences for this book, because I'm also intercaste and I'm part Dalit and part Iyengar, and this makes it very, it is a very complex caste identity to have, and you're constantly wondering where you belong or where you do not belong, or why you should not, or you do not care to belong. But the point is that we are all a part of this casteist world, be as we may, anti-caste or post-caste or whatever caste. We are still in this casteist world. And how do we deal with caste? We cannot forget about it. We cannot just wish it away or ignore it. We have to face our privileges or lack thereof. And we have to see that in the eye and face the truth, That is the only way to deal with caste. So that's what this book was about. And it was not easy to write this book because oftentimes it is not, being intercaste means that you hold these different points of view, and you see different things from different angles. So it is even this book. The characters all find it so difficult to deal with their own caste prejudices because it is not a one-sided issue. So let me read an excerpt from the book. This is set in the beginning where Kadambari is looking for her history and looking for, her where her grandfather came from. Poochie was a lanky man, a pitch-dark Shudra man. Poochie means insect in Tamil, and there's quite a story behind how he was christened thus. His mother was fruitless and barren 10 years into her marriage and had prayed to the goddess Potiyamma, the goddess of the lower castes, for a child. At that moment in prayer, a black ant bit her foot, and someone rang the temple bell, which was the most auspicious of Indian omens. So, she decided, if she became pregnant, she would name her child Poochie, a miracle. She was pregnant the next month. But Poochie's family was not actually a part of Iranadu, as they lived a kilometer outside it. Inside Iranadu, they were treated as outcasts. They were not allowed into the Agraharam, the temple streets. They were not to go to the tank or the lake in Iranadu. It was believed that low caste blood, the dark skin, could contaminate the purity of the sacred lake, and the others considered purity an ideological part of life. The British brought with them trains, post offices, and most importantly, education for the underprivileged. The Iranadu elite society boys were already going to the Peria school, where businessmen taught as part-timers, while their relatives ran the shops. There were also quite a few Brahmin teachers. The Shudras were obviously not going to school and had never thought of that possibility. The British officer in charge of the district, Sir Lloyd Brackett, wanted to change that. He was a strong propounder of the Magna Carta of Indian education, in it that it advocated the necessity of primary education to all. So Lloyd, the prefix was a cash bestowed much later, had taken to the literal rendition of education to all and vowed to create a system that provided education to all, including the poor farmers and Shudras. Every Iranadian protested. The most vocal protests came from Gandayudam, the head of the panchayat, who stated, "It is not fair for a foreigner to rule us in the first place, but that's only as long as they keep away from internal matters. The caste system is our tradition, and no white or brown skinned man can change that." Although the Indian National Congress meeting was convened in December 1885, the sense of wanting more responsibility and self rule, if not independence, reached Iranadu only in January 1894, when the British asked boys of all castes to go to the same school. "We cannot let this happen. What will be the plight of our children to go study in the same school as those Shudras?" sneered supercilious Gandayudam. He did not like anyone lesser than the herdsmen. He argued with his sonorous voice and managed to keep his claim resonant in Sir Lloyd's mind. Sir Lloyd found this amusing in a way, that although he was a keen student of Indian history, he could never comprehend why these people had such rigid boundaries between castes. It all seemed natural to him that all those who were suppressed shouldn't unite to force the authorities to better their position. Not that in his country the royalty ever accepted a common man amidst them. Nevertheless, on his return to England, it was a common anecdote he told to amuse his guests at tea parties, of the rigidity and mutual jealousies of Iranadu, and of course, all that he had done to uproot the differences between the castes. He was not being wholly untrue, though, as without him, Iranadu would not have established a school for Shudras, and if that hadn't happened, this book wouldn't have been written.